Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome, and we will call to order the Underhill County Board of Commissioners informal work session for October 30th, 2018. And we don't have a work session. Todd's here.
Todd,
Hey, Todd, you're not staying
Oh,
with
shucks.
us. He's just making a cameo appearance.
And whispering too.
Okay.
That's really disappeared
Nice to see you.
right here.
Nice to see you, Todd.
Anyway, we don't have a work session, and we do have a department update from our district attorney, Mr. Bradbury. Brad, thanks for being with us.
Sure. I have to start by thanking Carrie because this was so far off my radar until she sent me a reminder today that I would have never made it. So it didn't make it on my calendar for when it was originally scheduled. So kudos to her for sending that reminder. Well, I think this is like the second time that we've had the roll through my department. So last time I did it kind of casually, just sharing some things and some things I actually look out for. In fact, I meant to come over and talk to Rick as our liaison commissioner. So I think for the most part, things are running pretty smoothly. Our workload is climbing. I actually ran numbers earlier in the week, and we're seeing an increase. We're about flat on felonies. Misdemeanors are climbing, and we've been seeing growth in our filings over the last few years. But we've got this grant paid position, although it's a project position currently. It's helping to pick up some of that additional workload that we've had, so that part's good. About the project, it's been a little starts and stutters for me. I've been a little disappointed with that. But I continue to be convinced that the things we're aiming for are going to be really beneficial on overall on how we deal with, especially folks who present in the jail with mental health issues, for getting first-time offenders in and out the door as quickly as we can. Although I got word yesterday that the company that we've been partnering with may discontinue working in Oregon, and so if that happens, I'm not aware of an alternative. But I'm going to continue to find a way to have an alternative program of some sort. So I think it's important we haven't had many referrals, so we're looking to find ways of expanding that. I just got a proposal for Micah on that, so I'm just continuing to move forward on that. And then the two other pieces, one we've been doing all along, which is the Measure 57 kind of double check work, and then the data-driven investigation piece of it will be the last to kick out, and it's the least important in the CJC. So it's one that law enforcement's interested in, and we'll be getting to that probably in the first quarter of 2019 is my guess. A couple of things to watch out for. We currently have more people charged with murder at the same time than I've had I'm in my 22nd year. And they're all three juveniles. That too is an interesting place for us to be. Why do you care? Well, one, it's certainly unusual, but the other piece of it is it's very, very expensive for us. And I'm not talking cost of keeping somebody in juvenile detention. I authorized up to $20,000 for hiring experts on one of them 2 weeks ago. I don't have a budget for that. So we're expecting, I checked my numbers today, we're probably right on as the year has gone on. So we're in pretty good shape there, but I don't have that kind of nut for trial-related expenses. I recall one time years and years ago, I think when JK was still in your chair, where we had to come over and I had to ask for more money. And the response I got then was, well, let's see how you do to the end of the year. So because if Lisa wins the judicial position, we'll have some significant cost savings there. So today I'm not worried about blowing out the budget in any place because I'll have that money there. But if I ended up spending 30, 40K per defendant for experts and other trial-related costs, I'm going to be coming back over saying we've got an issue. I try to be frugal, but when really from public defense services, when we have murder cases, especially with juveniles, let's say otherwise, overall, it's a blank check for the defense. And we tend to respond not in the same way. They can go out until they find an expert who says what they hope they'll say. And who knows how many they'll go through, but they'll get that opportunity in other investigative tools. We don't have I don't have an investigator, which a lot of offices do, but we get good investigative follow-up responses from law enforcement, so we don't need those monies. But when it comes to hiring for forensic psychological evaluations, it's very expensive. For having testimony, for those who will come in and testify, it's very expensive for us. But there's no way around it. We have to be able to directly confront the things that are brought to us by the defense. So that's just, I want it on the radar. I don't like any surprises as we get later in the fiscal year. And I don't think I've ever, other than Ken has called me and said, hey, do you know you're in this position on something? I'm going, what? Kind of thing. But if it's looking like that's going to be a problem, if Liesl doesn't take the seat on the bench, well, then we're going to have an issue, because that would be cost savings for us. But if she does, I think we're going to have the overall bandwidth to absorb much of that. Now, if they were to all three hit us in trial within the first, it's not going to happen, but within the first 6 months of 19, that's a really, really, really big nut for us to take on. We probably would have problems with that. So I'll keep, obviously, LT and Ken advised, and I'll work through Rick. And if Rick says, I think you need to come to the board as a whole, I'll come back and explain all of that. Need to be a little careful on specifics, so that, obviously Nicole's here, and we try not to try issues in the press. I'm really very careful about seeing the defendants get a fair trial and the like. So I'm certainly not going to have the debate here on positions we're taking versus positions the defense is taking. But I'm happy to share those on a one-on-one basis so that you're advised of that. And it's not, I certainly trust Nicole. We've talked about probably 1,000 cases through the years from time to time. But I need to be careful that all three of these young men, that we don't at all compromise their ability of fair and impartial trial. So those are kind of the main things that are going on. The project's kind of a big deal for us, but with Amanda starting there and then leaving the office, we had to kind of kickstart back up on that. And then, just kind of where we are with these major cases. So we're humming along. Your comments about Deb, I will tell you, I'm so proud of the staff we have now. I mean, everybody is running on all 8. They're all, we haven't, you always get personnel issues from time to time. We don't have any of that right now. Everybody seems to be really working hard with increased work. I have some frustrations on just things that I would like to see a priority, but, it's front burner, back burner that the employees have to do for any particular case. Our newest lawyer, Mr. Jones, has been with us a relatively short period of time now, but I'm already getting compliments from the judges on his work, which is really good. Especially when you're young. When I was young as a deputy DA, I certainly made mistakes that Judge Blensley was happy to share with me. So, which honestly I loved. He was a real. He could be a really difficult judge. He knew the law just inside and out. So when he called you to his chambers and he shared something with you, it was really good knowledge to have. But it's really good that, part of what the judges watch is how do you carry yourself in court? How do you treat the court? Do you treat it with dignity? How do you treat the party, the defendant, and the other people in the courtroom? And so that's all stuff that can be difficult for a new lawyer to do. But Greg's done a great job there. Of course, you guys know Mike has been with us now for a while, and he's been a great addition. So we're, I'm excited about kind of where we are. We've always had a caliber of employees that is far beyond the salary we can pay. And we've always been fortunate that that's the case. They want to live here and be part of this community, so we've been pretty lucky there. Otherwise, that's from there, kind of take whatever thoughts or questions you might have.
Do you have any open positions? Are you down people?
We're a full boat right now. And then obviously if Liesl wins next week, I think her plans to take December off, so we will instantly have an empty seat. That's a very difficult caseload that she handles, and I've had some discussions with both Kate and Deb about what we're going to do on that, but that's a bit of a work in progress on it. She is primarily responsible for sexual assaults, especially sexual assaults on children, and I have a very a small group of lawyers that are tasked with those cases because they really are difficult. And so my most senior lawyers, my most senior lawyers that are a good fit for those cases. It's not a good fit for some lawyers. They're just cases that it's just not a good fit. Let's just leave it at that. So that's where I'm concerned. That's where our next would be. As you might recall, when we looked to hire Micah, we advertised for what the police would call a lateral. We wanted somebody with experience, and we were bringing into a felony chair. And the pool of applicants, it's a lot like the police department. They're just not there. And we went out, I think we advertised 3 times. And it just happened to be one of my lawyers reaching out, knowing that Micah was interested in coming back to the Valley, saying, well, we're going to have an opening. So we really lucked out there. He came with high compliments from the district attorney out in Umatilla County, who didn't want to lose him, but said, you will not go wrong with him, and he's been right. So that will be a problem, not only losing a very senior lawyer, but one who has a very specialized caseload, and how do we deal with that in-house? And we'll figure that out. I've got, Kate has cut back with taking on some management duties on that, but she also now is co-chairing each of the 3 murder cases. So that's, her plate is getting very full. If you were to see our binders on those cases, they're just, we could fill this table with the paperwork on those cases. So, that's what it is.
And then you indicated that you'd have about $90,000 to $120,000 of additional costs related to those 3 murder cases.
Yeah, it feels high, but I'd rather give you the downside here, and not swing at it and miss completely, rather than say I think it's going to cost us 40 and then it ends up double that. So I'm just looking at, this is the first cost authorization I've made in the first round on the case that's in motions. Well, we just did motions on it. And the other 2 we've not even started on yet. So it's just, it's a very unusual territory. We get so few murder cases here. We get homicides, but we get so few murder cases. And especially when you're talking with youth, it brings a whole different approach from the defense that we need to be ready to engage.
Brad, the extra costs are related to housing?
No, they're related to hiring experts. Psychological, typically medical, psychological experts.
We'd also have
Yeah, you're going to have additional costs in detention.
Right, so we'll be paying for that, and now in terms of out of juveniles budget, that's a whole separate.
Right, and I don't want to speak for them, and you guys will correct me if I'm wrong. The juvenile detention is not full. So you have fixed costs over there with the exception of meals and the like. So the impact to detention is not great. However, we have the 2 co-defendants. I don't know if they're trading or we're just housing one someplace else. That is an additional check.
Okay.
And that's because they're co-defendants. So if they weren't, we wouldn't care about them, but we can't house co-defendants together. And even in the jail, we would keep co-defendants as far apart as we could, but especially if we had co-defendants on a murder case, which actually reminds me, we also have another murder as an adult now too. So we've got 4 in custody on murder. I forgot about that one. But I'm not seeing the approach on that the same. He got charged with an attempted murder out of Marion County that allegedly occurred the night before our murder. And that may push defense counsel to approach this case differently than a lot of these would. So we'll see. But we're still early on in the game obviously it's not a game, but early on in proceedings on both that case, I think it's the Chaos, as well as the Olive Brooks case. It's the Vineyard case that's well down. We just got all their expert stuff. Was given to us about a month ago. It's been sitting all that time waiting for us to get that, and so we've now secured somebody to do the other side, to review and do evaluations for us and the like.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any other questions?
No,
Oh, thank you.
Well,
I appreciate
appreciate
that. It's actually kind of fun to come talk about what we do. I don't get to do that with you guys very
Yeah,
often. So,
anytime. Thank you.
yeah,
Thanks
thanks.
very much.
Thank you,
for
Brad.
coming
Thanks,
over.
Brad. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item C, which is our preliminary consent agenda. And we're okay with reading at everything else on the preliminary consent agenda, the minutes, the contracts, the grants, and authority. Any questions?
And the only question I had on the authority, and maybe this is for Christian, is this something that, with Silas putting director holds on persons, has that been challenged in the courts or anything like that, Christian, where a director like what Silas does, having the ability, the authority to put a hold on a person?
So it's regulated by statute.
Okay.
It gives them the authority to do it if certain criteria is met. And all of the folks, some of that information is in the board order, but all the folks on the list are have been trained.
So, oh, sorry.
And he updates this periodically because there are several folks on that list that are working with us through George Fox and other partners, and as those individuals come and go, he likes to keep the list current. So new names will be added and other names will come off so that he has as clear a picture of who presently has received the training and is being given the authorization to issue these holds. So everyone on that list can issue a director's hold.
I'm gonna say that, but that's.
So the only, and I've had concerns about this in terms of the civil liberties aspect of this, but it's all regulated by statute.
Correct.
And all we're doing is, as Christian said, are these people who newly hired or newly contracted with George Fox. And the other thing is, the question that I had this year was, are these people necessarily contacting Silas for an okay? And the answer is not necessarily. They're all authorized to do this on their own.
And he would be the one to ask in terms of how often have they actually been exercising that authority. That is not information that I have. I believe it's relatively
It's pretty
rare.
rare.
It is, and they do inform him, and he in turn informs me when that takes place.
And that the civil liberties act, what Mary said, that was mine. If it's
Yeah,
It's-
no,
it's okay.
anytime it's an
I don't
involuntary
have an issue
hold,
with it.
it's a serious issue.
So we'll move on to item D, the non-consent agenda items. And item D1 is the consideration of approval of the county-based cost share wildlife control program for the benefit of county residents on a 50% fee match basis not to exceed $500. Now, my question was, is this $500, is that our match or the not to exceed the total amount, which would be the $250 on our part? I think we need to make that a little more clear, because it looks like.
$250 from us and $250
For
from
the-
them.
Correct.
Right, that's what we talked
Yeah.
about, but I.
We'll clarify that.
It doesn't sound real clear in the language.
Okay, so is everybody okay with that? We've discussed it, we've talked about the options.
Yeah, I think it satisfies what was required at our last meeting when the citizen brought forward this concern. Just the lack of having anybody to go to, that was a big thing. And so at least by doing this, we're starting the process of providing an avenue for them to get some help in taking care of these issues, so.
Okay.
I wasn't at that informal, but I contacted Laura and said if that was discussing that was the solution, the two of you decided that was fine with me. I don't have any problem.
Yeah, we were just looking at
Yeah.
all the different options
Yeah.
that we had
That's the
and
biggest option.
cheapest, and I
Yeah.
think for as often as we would be contacted.
However, I do want to make clear that there aren't a lot of these private companies out there, and they aren't always available immediately. So some homeowners may not be satisfied if they don't get an immediate response.
Mhm.
But
As we put this word out there, it's got to be clarified that we are attempting to make available to them a go-to access to, but we can't guarantee how quickly,
And the letter will spell that out, that it's on a time available basis. We will contact the operator on their behalf, and then they will in turn contact the homeowner, but it will be on a time available basis.
So who's going to actually be facilitating that in our office?
It would be me,
It would be.
or Carrie, and then when I retire, Ken would then take it over.
Oh, lucky you.
Such an animal.
The critter getter
You're
over there.
welcome. You're welcome.
Okay. Well, Laura, I know you did a lot of work on this. It's been going on
Very
for a
good.
while, so we appreciate that. All the different options were kind of
And we'll try to make it prominent on our website. I know that it's been available, we haven't really advertised it, so we'll make it more prominent,
okay,
so folks know.
great. The next item is item D2, the discussion of the gate on High Heaven Road and consideration of transferring a permit from Willamette Industries to Weyerhaeuser. And Ken, I know you've spent an inordinate number of hours on this, and thank you for the due diligence, so maybe you can just give us the basics.
All right, so just really quick, as you know, as I shared in the email asking this to be put on the agenda, it originally started, the citizen had contacted a couple commissioners about the gate on High Heaven Road, and so you had asked me to look into this. This gate that's on High Heaven Road was approved by the then Board of Commissioners in 2001. They held a public hearing. The original request was from Willamette Industries. There was a hearing. They took testimony. The board at that time, they approved the permit to go ahead and install the gate. In reviewing some of the testimony and information that was presented, this section of road above the gate, in 2001, the county hadn't been maintaining that portion of the road for at least 10 years prior to that. So the gate was installed by Willamette Industries in 2001, and it's been there since. During that time, of course, Weyerhaeuser acquired or merged with Willamette Industries, and they became the owner of those timber properties that are along the road there. I had a conversation with Weyerhaeuser. Again, their concerns were litter, trash, fire danger, people going onto their timber properties and the issues up there. What seems like, although I'm not really clear what really initiated the discussion, it seems to me that it was around some signs that were posted. Weyerhaeuser leases their properties, not the road, but they lease their properties still. There's a couple groups that have a lease agreement to go and recreate on those Weyerhaeuser properties. At some point, some signs were installed at the gate that said no trespassing, and it seems like that started it. So part of my follow-up conversations with Weyerhaeuser, they said, we didn't install those signs shouldn't have been installed, we've already followed up with the leases, and the signs were removed that same day that I had the conversation. Again, I've been doing some research. I've talked to Christian, I've talked to Bill Gilly at Public Works, and then I've talked to Weyerhaeuser. There's been the issues that the citizen is bringing up, one of the issues is that the permit was issued to Willamette Industries and not to Weyerhaeuser. And speaking of Weyerhaeuser, we merged with Willamette, and so the permit transferred to us. And there's no transferable clause in talking to Christian, and feel free to jump in if you'd like. You usually don't. But there's no transferable clause within the permit, and so then that's why, as a suggested action, is the board may want to take action on recognizing that Weyerhaeuser is now the permit holder for this gate. There's been a few other issues that the citizen has brought forward. One, whether or not the gate can even be installed at this location. In talking to Christian, we believe it can be installed. It was permitted and allowed under the ORS.
Yeah, the original permit cites the same statute that applies today. Gives the board the authority to put a gate across a public road.
And then some of the other concerns was getting access through the gate by the landowner. They've cited, potential, an escape route for a wildfire. And it sounds like Weyerhaeuser would be open to that discussion, but they were kind of putting us, well, if the county wants to issue keys, however, we really see it'd be better for Weyerhaeuser to work out that relationship. And there are conditions under the current permit that do allow for keys to be issued in certain circumstances.
And
Our sheriff's office already has keys, our public works office has keys, Mac Water and Light has keys. There were several specific agencies that were identified as part of the permit to be issued keys, and all those folks have keys. So fire and emergency response have keys to the gates. Let's see. Yeah, and they can get through the gate.
If all else
The
fails.
big key opener.
Some of the other concerns was about the gate blocking access to BLM lamps that may be situated in there as well. But again, the gate is a closure to vehicle access, not non-motorized access. So the roads are open to non-motorized recreational access, just not the Weyerhaeuser properties. So those are some of the issues.
That was the other concern. Ken mentioned access to the Weyerhaeuser properties. This individual has raised some concerns about gates blocking some of the roads leading off of High Heaven into the Weyerhaeuser properties. Those are not gates that were the subject of the permit. We're only talking about the single gate across High Heaven Road at one end.
There's two gates.
They were given authority to put a gate on the other end, but did we determine that there is a gate there?
Yes.
On the far side, so there are the two gates across High Heaven.
But the gates that are on these
Leading
access
off High
roads
Heaven to
don't
Weyerhaeuser.
belong to them, and
Presumably, I guess.
Well, it's on their
Those are more like spur roads that are coming
Yeah,
off of High
logging
Heaven.
man
So,
roads.
right.
But they're not public roads.
They're not public
They're
roads.
We're not
As far as I know, right.
And I don't know, if I'm sitting there in a house that's in danger of burning down, that gate's not gonna stop me from getting through it. I mean, I'd run through it with my car. I'm sure that law's not gonna stop.
It's a pretty stout gate.
And there's
You
no
might be able to
resi-
drive
You're
around.
running for your life.
And there's no residential properties above that gate anyway, is there?
None that I'm familiar with.
Not above it, but the issue that she raises.
She wants to
is
get to the other side.
That network of roads would provide an alternate way to get out of a fire if there was a fire below their property on High Heaven and they weren't able to go down High Heaven and Willis.
Willis Road, yeah. That's their first intersection.
Yeah, that's one of the concerns she's raised, is that cuts off a potential escape.
But
It's not a great road to be able to access that.
there are a number of roads in Yankton County that people live at the end of,
Yeah.
that there is no access
That's right.
out other than going back down that
I
road.
live on a dead end road. If there was a fire between me and the end of the road, you could go to the end, but that's it.
Yeah, so that's, people choose to live out like that, and there are certain things you have to deal with that a person living in the city doesn't. That's reality.
Now, recognizing that, a lot has changed in the last 17 years, but at the time of the permit, there were at least two other landowners who testified in support of, who lived adjacent to the gate that testified in support of putting the gate in, and they were citing traffic, dust, litter, vandalism, everything else, and so that was just one more thing I would throw in there.
Did you clarify what exactly it is she's asking for? She'd like the board to take the lock off, leave the gate unlocked.
All those topics.
Receive the key from us or Weyerhaeuser.
It's ranged from remove the gate, no gate. I think you had
Unlock
a
the
conversation about a
Give me a
key.
key, things like that.
So I've had a lot of emails from the citizen, and it's the concerns. The gate's not legal. Well, Borough County Council, here's the statute, here's the language. Well, then there's a fire danger, and so it's kind of jumped around a little bit. And so that was my basic list of what I was able to extrapolate from the emails on
In
the
my
issues.
conversation with her, she just doesn't like the gate, period. I mean, I had an extensive conversation with her and exchanged emails, and she doesn't like the idea of the gate being there. Okay, I can, geez, come on.
Popular
people.
guy. He's got a stereo.
Well, I guess my feeling about it is we could do a transfer clause in that without probably, since this was a public hearing, without having to do a public hearing to be concerned.
So, yeah, the way the statute reads, I'm not certain the board was required to go through a
To
public
begin
hearing
with.
process to begin with, but you did, and I agree with that. I think that's not a bad idea, especially when there is, folks potentially on either side, gives everybody a chance to be heard, provides the board with, a basis to say, well, we followed a public process, it was advertised in the paper. You could choose to do that again if you wanted to transfer the permit, but if the board was simply looking to transfer the permit without changing any of the conditions on the permit, I don't believe you do. You would simply issue another board order and we would spell out the background of how we got to this point and then state that the permit, the board is hereby transferring the permit from Willamette to Weyerhaeuser.
So I know I certainly don't want us to become keeper of the keys. I'd rather we transfer it to where. Well, I mean, we have keys, but I don't want us responsible. If somebody wants a key, they have to be the keeper of the keys.
But I think that's what.
That should be up to
that's what it
Weyerhaeuser.
currently says.
No, there's another, if you look at condition number 2, that
The keys will be given to these groups, and then the last one listed is the sheriff and public works, and any other public entities the latter shall request.
Right, but
The
it's
latter.
the
So
latter.
we could authorize giving it to other public entities. I don't know.
we could authorize Weyerhaeuser giving.
That's what I said, that's what I want to make sure. I don't want to give them.
The county is
And it
not
does
gonna be
allow
responsible
Willamette
for
to-
issuing keys to
That's
their
right.
gate.
What I wanted to avoid is
Willamette
potentially the county getting into, if somebody has a key and continually leaves the gate unlocked, and then Weyerhaeuser's calling us, and then we're having to follow
Yeah.
up, and, and
That's
so
my
it just
concern.
makes sense that if Weyerhaeuser wanted to issue a key, or if that, they could do so.
It would be at their behest, not ours, and it would.
So at this point, really, we're just being asked to consider the transfer. Is that
So we're
something-
asking if the consensus of the board is to consider the transfer of the permit to Weyerhaeuser without a public hearing. That's what we're asking the board.
Yes.
Is that
that's-
what you'd like to do?
That's what-
That's-
Without changing other.
Conditions.
Other conditions that was under permit.
Maintain the current conditions, just transfer the permit
Yeah, without-
and not have a public hearing.
Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we
So,
would move that to
Can we
consent
move
agenda.
that to the consent agenda? Okay.
And we'll prepare the board order then,
All right.
circulate that before Thursday.
And that first one, I think, we could move to the consent agenda also.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that, yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And Ken, a lot of work,
Yes.
Good job, Ken.
like
Thank you,
probably an
Ken.
entire week's worth.
Now that you're a
Thank you.
gate expert on public roads out in the forest area.
Thank you very
Well,
much.
he already was the expert,
Yeah.
having
And
dealt
I
with
will
these
have
before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That helps.
Yes, it did, really.
Your background is already starting to pay off. Okay, so item D3 is the consideration of approval to declare tax lot R5413-03100, also known as lot 75, Hillview Drive Avenue. There's so much research
Well, everybody knows
there.
where-
Oregon 97101, and all the improvements thereon, if any, the property to be surplus property and authorizing the execution of a real estate purchase and sale agreement between Yamhill County and Ronald and Deborah Murray counties for the sale of the property in the amount of $73,548.75, subject to final review and approval by county council. Christian?
So the actual number is 76,000, so we will correct that between now and Thursday.
On the final closing costs, sometime today or tomorrow.
That's what Todd just came in to tell me, is
Okay.
that's what he believes the number to be. This is the property up on Neola Hills, 5
The
acres.
back taxes on that were 100 and something thousand.
So we've gone back and done ran the numbers with the assessor's office, and these are the numbers that we've gotten. This would bring the property current through this year, is my understanding, with all the back taxes, penalties, yeah.
Administrative.
Yeah, because I understood last year when we were looking
interest and all that, it's all included. Yeah, the numbers did change, you're absolutely right, and we've looked into it and we've asked them to verify, and that's the numbers that they've given us. It looks as though the sale will hopefully go through, so this would be a sale back to the current owner, who was the owner at the time of the foreclosure. And
They go back to
he is
his
lending.
foreclosure, or usually,
3 years.
No, I think it goes back to the all of the taxes that were outstanding, and I'll confirm it again.
did that, wasn't it 2008?
It went back quite a ways,
Yeah.
but there's land and then a manufactured home on the property.
And
So
some outbuildings, it's a nice piece of property.
But in terms of what we're taxing, I think there may be, there are lower taxes than you might expect because of the kind of building.
Structural.
House. So-
I was going back to when we first started talking about this, I know it was over $100,000.
And I'm not sure, you'd have to ask the assessor why or how those numbers changed, but
Okay.
we've asked them again to verify, does this, using the model the commissioners have asked us to use, which is in situations like this, bringing the taxes current, including all fees and interest, that's the number that we've been given.
And I'm fine, I want to get it back on the tax rolls, and I want to get the taxes paid. I just, here's a gentleman who was living on the property for several years, stopped paying his taxes, continued to live there for several more years, and I think it's just right he paid the taxes owed, and I just want to make sure that we get those numbers correct, that's
Yep.
all.
Well,
And we will verify.
And it's also nice that this doesn't have to be somebody that we have to dispossess of their property, or the property. And so it goes back to them, back on the tax roll, county's made whole. It's all
Yeah, it's a
good.
win-win,
It's win-win,
but
so
I
thank
just
you.
want to make sure we collect what
Yep,
we're supposed to.
right
do.
around.
Thank you, Christian.
As the liaison talking to Derek on this, his feeling, because I had the same question you did, Stan, and his feeling to me is that going back to the early 2000s, the property probably, for taxes, wasn't assessed correctly to begin with. So, because of the condition of the buildings and everything that are on it, so. And I think that's why it lowered the number, which we
I
originally
drove
talked
out
about.
there about 2 years ago, I guess it was, out there when we were looking at all that, and, I mean, it's a really nice piece of property.
Beautiful piece of property, yeah.
You
Structure's not bad.
spent a lot of money putting that gate up, like, it's nice and brick, and,
Yeah.
yeah. So, he needs to pay his taxes.
Hopefully now that he gives it back, hopefully he will.
Thank you again.
Yeah,
for the-
sure.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So we'll execute,
It's
all
nice.
goes as planned, this will be executed.
Nice to shrink our book.
Yeah,
We're working on it.
little by little,
Yeah.
thank
The
you.
closing may
Thank you,
be,
Michaela.
the closing may be pretty quick too, because I think most of the documents and.
I think that could move to the consent also.
Yes, sir. That look good to everybody?
Yep.
Okay, we don't have an executive session, and we'll start with Commissioner updates. Commissioner Olson?
The only thing I have is that I've been working on trying to go through and visiting all of our, for next year, what all of our liaison positions were, and I want to make it different this year if I become the chair, so I'll be probably sometime in the middle of November, be putting out something for the other two commissioners, because I really want your input on, what your personal interests are, what you'd like to keep, what, you feel would go someplace else, instead of me just sitting down in the chair of just assigning them. I'd really like all the other commissioners' input on to things, interests, personal interests, professional interests, what you'd like to do, how you'd like to do them, so I'll be asking both of you for information on that. So, that's the only thing I have.
Commissioner?
Last week was a little bit different than my normal week, so
Yeah.
I don't have a lot to report on right now, but there are a lot of things going on, and after Tuesday, I will be more inclined to share with you where we're going from here.
Okay, I appreciate that. Just wanted to point out a couple of different things. Northwest Senior Disability Services, it's part of a statewide network of disability and senior services that links people with services. We did get a call that there was someone who had fallen near the transit center. We were able to link them up with Northwest Seniors and get that person some help. But even more beyond that, we were able to now get that information about what Northwest Seniors does over to transit, to be able to, if they see somebody who might need some services, to get them involved with the Aging and Disability Resource Connection. So they've been outfitted with brochures, with contacts, and it can be a lot more seamless. Continue to November, I believe 5th will be the next meeting of the McMinnville Housing for Homeless Subcommittee. And one of the things I've been working on is youth housing and services, and I'm going to be going over to First Christian Church because Pastor Jeff Claybaugh has offered up the church there as a potential facility for a youth facility in some capacity. So I'm going over there on Thursday. It's an enormous space, and it really does hold some potential. And also on Friday, Pastor Claybaugh and I will be going to youth outreach in Newburgh to visit with YCAP's, why am I drawing a blank? Kate Stokes. Director. And anyway, she's going to be explaining the program to him. So the more people we can get excited about it, we'll bring it back up at the Housing Subcommittee and see what options we have to make that thing happen. So,
Commissioner, is that space available? Is that on the main floor and the bottom floor of the First Christian Church?
well, there's a whole section. You know where they're doing the meals now? Where
Yeah.
they've got the different rooms. Or,
It's that second.
well, they're thinking of, okay, how do we sort of restructure the meals, clean up of the meals, get the kids in, make it a drop-in center of some sort. But that's all I
That's a big building. That
It's
is a big
huge.
building. It's huge.
So I'm gonna go and take a look at it Thursday, and I think that's all I have at this point. So if there's nothing else for the good of the order, we will conclude today's informal session for October 30th. It's 2:12.